Hi folks, welcome to a Bit Retro Journal. It's still the month of May. We're celebrating Amiga, and I've got my Amiga 600 upside down. This is actually how I store it when I'm not using it, mainly because I haven't recapped it yet. And I figured if the caps were to leak, at least the gravity would take them in this direction towards the back of my keyboard, which I guess is not great either, but better than getting on the motherboard. The keyboard it's iodized metal, so I think that'll protect it, and I can always clean that up. The reason I have it upside down on my desktop here is because I actually want to look into recapping it. It's not something I can film. I'll take pictures of before and after to see how it goes. The one thing I'm concerned about is the keyboard connector, which is right here. That has two caps that I can't get to. The other ones I feel pretty comfortable that I can remove. And what I think I'll do is I'll start removing them. I haven't gotten my order of capacitor replacements in yet either, so I don't know when that's going to come in. I got some from AliExpress, so it may take a while. But I figured I might as well get rid of the ones that I can and then try to replace. I do have a few. Try to replace a few of them, and then it's the one on the keyboard connector. I don't have a desoldering station. What I do have is the desoldering gun, and there's no way I can take either the audio jacks or the keyboard connector off because the audio jacks are on a ground plane, so that needs too much heat. And there's just too many pins on the keyboard connector. So I'd have to see if I could somehow squeeze in and take them out and replace them. You know, depending on how it goes, I might just send it away to have it recapped if it's not going too well. But like I said, I don't have an overhead camera to do that with. In any case, what I'm going to do today actually is I'm going to use a couple of emulators to show something that I noticed when I did my April Fool's video where I was running an emulator within an emulator within an emulator, and I sort of discovered some interesting aspects of Shapeshifter and WinUAE compared to Basilisk that I wanted to demonstrate with regard to speed. And you know, the April Fool's video was kind of a prank, but it definitely demonstrated some interesting software techniques used in one emulator versus another that actually makes it run a little faster. And so I wanted to demonstrate that because I noticed it, and I've just recently been using benchmarks to sort of verify what I had sort of seen. All right, so we'll come back to this. I don't know if it'll be done before May is over, but so it might be a later video, or it may take a while. But hopefully, I do want to recap this because I want to make sure that I don't destroy it. Since these, I think only one cap's been replaced. But let's go to my desktop machine and let's look at some emulators. I'm on my desktop, and I have the following emulators. I have WinUAE, the 64-bit edition, version 4.4. That's not the latest version. There is version 4.10, but for the purpose of what I'm doing, I don't think it matters too much. And then I have two versions of Basilisk. I have 0.8, which is my favorite one to use. It's pretty old. And then I have version 1.1, which was back in March of 23, when I used it, it was the latest build, which was built in March of 22. And so not sure if there's a newer one. But what I wanted to show you is, I want to open this one up first. And so this was the configuration I used for my April 1st video where I was doing nested emulators. And I was using 68020, just-in-time compilation. That was the important one. And then floating point. And yeah, this went really fast. And the thing that I noticed, and what's caused me to do this video, is if I start up Shapeshifter, and the one change I made to Shapeshifter from my April 1st video is I set refresh rate to 1, which actually improves things tremendously. Doesn't change the speed of things, but it's literally, just the mouse now works beautifully. If I open up Mac UE. So the one thing I wanted to sort of demonstrate here is that if I start Mac UE, it takes about 5 seconds to load. And that I noticed when I was doing this compared to Basilisk version 5.8. I start this one up, and this is again my favorite one to use. Now they are using the same hard disk, even though it's a copy, but it's the same copy of the same hard disk image. And if I start Mac UAE up here, what you'll see is that this one actually takes twice as long to load. It's about 10 or 11 seconds. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. Here I have Shapeshifter emulating a Mac emulating Amiga. So an Amiga emulating a Mac emulating Amiga opens it faster than a Mac emulating an Amiga. So that to me was sort of made me wonder, like, how good is WinUAE as well as Shapeshifter. And so I'm going to shut this one down. Well, before I do that, let me go and do the following. Let me run, I'm going to run the Mac Bench, and just to show you how fast this one runs. So this doesn't do just-in-time compilation, so it does kind of suffer a bit with regard to performance. And I'm going to run the main test, and this is going to take a bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and fast forward past this. I will at the very end show you the actual full run. It takes about 2 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run both Shapeshifter and Basilisk side by side. So WinUAE running Shapeshifter and Basilisk, running the tests, because it's kind of cool to see that. But for now, I'm just going to skip over this part. So it finished running, and yeah, I mean, the results aren't bad, but the FPU one is kind of slow. But yeah, so it's not bad. But what I want to do is demonstrate to you. I'm going to quit this. So again, we can look at these results, but again, they're nothing to compare compared to Basilisk version 1.1, which is much faster. And the comparison that I want to do is comparing. I'm going to shut this down. What I want to do is compare Shapeshifter running Mac Bench compared to the latest version of Basilisk, because they both do just-in-time compilation. So let me actually run Mac Bench is what I want to run. And here again, I'm going to skip past this again, but I'm going to run Mac Bench on. So this is running WinUAE running Shapeshifter running. WinUAE running Shapeshifter and running the Mac Bench test at double emulation, and I'm going to run the main test. And I'm going to skip past this because it takes about 2 minutes. Although at the end I will run both side by side because it's kind of cool. Here we go. Start that up. So here's our result, and you can see that it ran pretty well. But what I want to show you next is the graphics results actually really interesting. And so I'm going to go and leave Basilisk and Shapeshifter and WinUAE, and I'm going to open up. So this is Basilisk version 1.1. And if I open up its configuration window, you can see that I've got just-in-time JIT enabled, 16-bit memory, Mac 2CI, very similar to my other Basilisk, and similar to what this is set at. And yeah, so this, so what I want to do is I'm going to run it and start it up. And so this is sharing the same disk as my version 0.8, so that's why the configuration, it kept the, what I had open last time. So I'm going to run Shapeshifter here. I'm not Shapeshifter, I'm sorry, Mac Bench here as well, just to compare to Shapeshifter. And so this comes up with an interesting result. And I'm going to run this test suite. And I will fast forward over this, but the one comment I want to make is that if you're wondering, hey, that's not fair, you should quit WinUAE because you're running WinUAE in the background. I've tested these separately and it doesn't change the results. So this is a multi-core processor I have on my desktop machine. So they're each getting their own core and it's not impacted by running things this concurrently or separately. So so that is a fair test, but you can already see that the processor score is faster. This is 230 versus 147. It varies, but it's usually almost 2 to 1, and the same is going to be true for the floating point test. But let's wait till the floating point test just to show you, and then I'll fast forward, or I should say I'll skip past to the end just to demonstrate the point I wanted to make, which kind of goes with the observation that I made. So I don't know how much longer the floating point test takes, but I will, once I get that, because it'll update it here, I'll skip. Well, I'm not clear whether we could see that because the graphics usually start. So so I'm going to skip to the end. And here we are. And so the tests are finished, and you can see that having run this, the processor is much faster on Basilisk II version 1.1. The floating point is much faster, but the graphics score, the Shapeshifter when you actually beats it. Now, these vary. Sometimes this is a little lower and this is a little bigger, but usually this score is always generally better than this score. And that was the surprise. And that, again, goes back to the fact that well, when I'm running Basilisk version 0.8, it takes twice as long to sort of display the final screen. Now, I wish that I could demonstrate this on Basilisk 2.0, but the one problem is that I'm not able to do that, so I'll show you why. If I try to run this here, it actually crashes the emulator. And I've tried every possible, so I've tried turning just-in-time off, using, not using FPU, turning all these things off. Every combination I could think of. The render driver software being something different, and yeah, it's just not. I mean, you can put it on Direct 3D, and none of that, if I start it up, has an impact on the running that, and yeah, it just kind of crashes. Just one point. I have run this. So I'm going to turn this back on and do FPU. So graphics, if I turn the Direct 3D driver on, I'm going to skip really quickly to the end of this just to demonstrate that it doesn't necessarily impact the graphics, but let me just verify that by running the main test again. So I'll skip to the end. And we're back, and you can see the scores here are different, and the graphics mix is slightly better than it was before, but again, still less than it is on WinUAE, and this does vary. So I've had different. Let me see if how consistent it is. So I'm gonna quit this. Don't save, shut this down. I'm going to rerun this and turn graphics software back to software. So maybe Direct does do slightly better, but it still doesn't do as well as... So again, I'm going to run this one more time just to get a feel for whether software graphics is always slower. Maybe Direct 3D is the fastest. So again, I'll skip to the end here. And we're back, and you can see again, it was 280 with software the first time. Now it's 301. It was 328. So it does vary. These numbers seem to stay put. So unclear whether software or direct I forget what it's called, 3D is better or not. Well, I think this uses let me see exactly what this is called, because I forget. The terminology here is it's called Direct 3D, which is actually what WinUAE uses. But again, I haven't really seen the values change all that much between the two. And so the surprising element here is that indeed WinUAE seems to actually hold its own. Well, WinUAE running Shapeshifter, graphics-wise, holds its own, if not runs better than Basilisk II version 1.1, which is the latest. And so that was really surprising, because you have an emulator running an emulator. So this really shows, again, the power of WinUAE. And I assume Shapeshifter is a pretty decent program as well. So what I want to do here to end this is I'm just going to run these side by side. So I'm going to quit, and then, I guess it restarted. I don't know why I quit that. And what I want to do is just sort of end the video to run the full test suite. So if you don't want to see it, and we'll leave that here. Now I have to go to the next program, and I'm going to run this, move it down here. And I think what I'm going to do is, I don't know which one runs, well, since the, this one runs slightly faster, I think I'll go and, I'll start this one, and then I'll go and click here and start this one. Here we go. Start, click in here, start. And, we're going to watch the whole test this time. Including the graphics test, which is kind of interesting, although if you have flashing colors and lights, you might want to avoid it, because it can be a little bit crazy. Actually, I'm going to leave this and bring this here, because I think this will show it better. I don't, again, think that background versus foreground is going to make that much of a difference. So, yeah, so they're kind of, the other thing that you see here when you run these things side by side is that even though the processor speeds are much slower, half the speed this time, it's interesting that it looks like it keeps up with the test. So I'm not quite sure. You'd think that the actual benchmark test would run half as slow, but it doesn't. It actually, they both keep up, and they're kind of in sync. So there's something weird going on with regard to this. This number, this may not be as accurate as it seems. I might have to in the future run some benchmarks where I actually physically time it versus rely on the internal clocks, which we saw on the, and this is going to here. Yeah, so this is going to keep up, and you can see this. These kind of run at the same speed, this one won't get too far behind. Now, if I bring this one in the foreground, I don't think it matters too much. I don't know. Maybe it's running a little faster. No, but so those are the color tests that it runs. Again, I'll finish up and let you watch the end of it, and I'll fade out when the test finishes. So. Enjoy, and thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.